Hello everybody, welcome to the Red Devil Experience. Hope everybody's doing well. We got the latest breaking Manchester United news. Manchester United reportedly are wanting to sign up to 5 players this summer transfer window. Also, we got more information surrounding the potential Ederson deal from Atalanta to Manchester United for around £40 million. This sort of picked up, last week or the week before. And it's gone into a little bit more detail. It seems like United, are sort of heavily in this one that seems like, could be sort of an easy deal for United to do. And it's heating up a bit, with reports that personal terms with Ederson have already been agreed. And, the fee for Ederson seems pretty straightforward. So I don't think, if United were to go for it, I don't think it's one that should probably drag out for long because it seems very straightforward. And we also got a bunch of flurry of other news, updates surrounding the midfield targets. And also we've been reportedly told what positions are the 5 players going to be that Manchester United are going to be signing. So listen, it's been a little bit since we've been live, so I hope everybody is doing well. All right. Hope everybody is doing well. Just real quick, wasn't able to do the Red Devil recap like we usually do. I woke up for that Sunderland match, and I was sick, man. I was so sick, and I barely could watch the match. I mean, I was watching it. I put it on my phone because I couldn't even get out of bed. I put it on my phone, and I was watching on my phone, and I fell asleep like 20 minutes into the game, and I woke up in like the 90th minute. So I couldn't do it. So I apologize for that, and I apologize that we haven't been around for like 5 to 6 days, but we're back, and I hope everybody's doing well. We got loads of stuff to talk about, and Valley Joe 96 says average midfielders. I assume he's talking about Ederson. Well, we'll get into Ederson. Is he a good signing for United? I mean, £40 million for an average midfielder. If you agree with him being an average midfielder, listen, it's like an average fee. So, my initial thoughts is it's probably fair. But we'll get into all that stuff. Please make sure you're smashing the like button because it is important to the channel, to the show, to the live stream. So get that done. If you're new and you enjoy the content, subscribe. Hit the notification bell icon so you don't miss a live and you get notified when we are going live because the schedule is hectic and we are all over the place. So, but I sort of want to, I want to kind of hit this before we go anywhere because this came from everybody's favorite journalist, and I say that sarcastically, of course. But Samuel Luckhurst, who works for The Sun now, came out with a couple little updates today. So let's get these out of the way. But the first sort of big update that he came out with today was that Manchester United won a minimum of 5 signings to strengthen their squad next season, and said United's intention is to bring in 3 central midfielders, a left back, and a backup striker. A new goalkeeper could also come in to provide support for number 1 Sané Lemons. The reason why I'm sort of bringing this up is because this has been sort of a discussion we've been having on the channel and within the community, our community. And it's one that I personally, basically attached myself to for the past couple months now, in that we do need 3 central midfielders. I do believe the proper route to continue to build the squad, I do believe we need 3 midfielders. Some one by choice, but the others we don't really have a choice. I mean, to fill out the depth, to build a strong midfield that can compete, and it's in a very important position in the pitch, if not the most important position of the team. And this can sort of define, the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, depending on, who we sign and how it goes for us. And, It's been reported for a while that United were looking for two midfielders, and in that time, I've been making the argument that United must go and get three midfielders because we must sell Ugarte, and we obviously have to replace Casemiro with somebody, or at least try to replace Casemiro with somebody, and we're already missing a midfielder, so we need another one. And Samuel Luckhurst seems to be the only one that is sort of reporting kind of what I believe that the club should be looking to do. Interestingly enough, though, as a point of discussion, many people, obviously, within the fan base would like another left back and a right back. They would probably go as far as to say they would like a backup striker. They've done so on this channel, on this show. We know we've been reported that we are looking into or potentially want a left winger. No mention of that here, and some people would go as far as to say we probably need a centre back, and some people would like some type of a backup goalkeeper or a second goalkeeper, whether that be Vitek or somebody else. So I find this update a little bit interesting because I think what we've been saying is, specifically with Patrick Dorgu, I think we have to get that aspect sorted out, because if United decide, and Carrick and the coaching staff, if they decide that they want to turn Dorgu, or they're going to use Dorgu as a left winger, then I don't think we actually probably need a left winger, because we need one person to fill that role. And if we're going to make Dorgu into that guy, then that position is sort of filled. And if that's sort of the plan that they choose to go down, well, then it makes very much sense that they would look to then go and get a left back in instead of going to get a winger in. Because if you're not going to use Dorgu as a winger, then we already have, Luke Shaw and Dorgu, and that should be enough in terms of, competition and depth, even though Shaw is a bit, you can't really trust his fitness. He's stayed fit this season, but we're going to play a lot more games, and, there are obvious concerns that, is he going to be able to sustain this again next season? Many people will say no, and I don't feel too sure about it either, but I guess we'll find out. But I think that specific thing makes it very interesting because, if Samuel Luckhurst, listen, it could be full of shit. He could have some truth to it. He could be on the money with his information and his sources. And if United are looking to get a left back, that sort of tells me that maybe we're going to make Dorgu a winger. Because if we're making 5 signings and 3 of them in the central midfield, and then we're going to get a left back and maybe a backup striker, well, there is no winger there. So the only solution going forward to the winger position, which, we reportedly wanted Semenyo, but we didn't get him. And then that sort of carried on to United would look to get a winger in the summer. But with this update, it's a left back instead of a winger. And the backup striker is a bit interesting as well. I mean, I do say that, I would prefer to have 2 strikers. I think it's needed for the depth. I think it sort of follows suit in the fact of that I've been saying that Joshua Zirkzee, along with Manuel Ugarte, are 2 players that need to be sold, should be sold. Zirkzee is, I guess, essentially right now in this current team considered sort of the backup striker, but not really, because he doesn't even really play. I mean, he started in the match for Sunderland because Sesko was unavailable, and then Buemo was rested. And, he started up there, but I never liked him as a striker. I don't classify him as a striker. I don't think he has that bite to him that I would like the striker to have. And also, I don't think he fits really what the team is shaping up to be under Michael Carrick and going forward for what we need. So I think we could get a different player with different sort of abilities in that position. And if United are going for backup striker, according to Samuel Luckhurst, then it would make sense that Joshua Zirkzee is one that's going to be sold. Now, there's a lengthy update sort of about Joshua Zirkzee that we'll get to in a little bit. But you know, he sort of Samuel Lucker sort of gave us a couple other updates here. So I mean, one of them was re-mentioning Myles Lewis-Skelly, who he said has been recommended to Manchester United as a potential left back option to compete with Luke Shaw. And again, going off of this sort of reporting, that would indicate to me that Manchester United are going to look to make Dorgu a left winger. Because if we're going to get a left back and we're going to get somebody like Myles Lewis-Skelly, who, by the way, can play in the central midfield as well. And, I got a couple friends that are Arsenal fans. I was watching the game with them yesterday. And, they were saying, like, they don't like Skelly playing left back. They don't think he's that good at it. And they want him in the midfield. They say he's much better in the midfield. So I question a little bit of, if United were to take up that option, in terms of how good do they think that he can actually play left back when the fans of his current team don't really rate him at left back, and obviously they say he's much better at midfield, but we're going to get him to primarily play left back with a secondary option of playing in the midfield for depth if we need it, if we're in some sort of injury crisis or something like that. I can see why United would like to go for that, because Ineos have been targeting players that are versatile. They're multi-positional players that they can play one or two different positions if need be. It's sort of a good policy. It's not a bad thing necessarily, but it just is it good enough? Is it good enough to get a guy that's currently not rated that highly a left back for his current club, and is preferred in the midfield? Is it good enough for us to go and get him from Arsenal and make him basically our main left back, or at least compete for the starting position at left back? And also for me, personally, there's no like inside information on this or anything. It's just a feeling, but I just kind of feel like we probably won't end up getting this guy anyway. I don't know what Arsenal's plans are exactly, but I feel like it's a bit far-fetched to go and get Myles Lewis-Skelly from Arsenal right now. So yes. Natasha's here, says, hi Eric, missed you, where you been? Did you see the VAR decision yesterday? I saw it. I was busy with work, so I couldn't stream for a couple days, and then we were supposed to do the Red Devil recap, and I was sick. I was really sick, so I barely watched the match, our match. I caught like 20 minutes of it. I fell asleep. When I woke up, it was like the 90th minute. I watched the ending of it, and then I didn't have the strength to get out of bed, set up the show, and do a whole show. So I apologize for that, because I didn't update anybody, but I was just like I wasn't in a good state. I wasn't functioning properly. So but we're back, and hope you're doing good. I saw the VAR decision. Listen, the VAR decision, I don't care. Listen, it was a foul. All right. I get the argument that they were doing this, or they were doing something similar to the goalkeepers all season. But, I kind of can't go on Arsenal on that, because that's the refereeing, that's the PFA, that's the officiating in the league. All right, they let that sort of stuff go for basically the whole season. It happens against Arsenal in sort of a title decider game. Well, not sort of, definitely a title decider game. And they get the foul that benefits them. And they win the match basically because of it, because otherwise it ends in a draw if they don't call that. But yeah, I mean, listen, it was a foul. That shouldn't happen. A lot of the goals they scored throughout the season, they shouldn't have counted. I never agreed with that. you cannot assault the goalkeeper. It's just that has been the rule in football for I don't know how long, but listen, they did it to us in the first game of the season that we played this season. They scored the goal from it. They got away with it. They won the match. They got 3 points. You know, eh, but it's not on them. They're just a team that plays. This is the refereeing. This is the disgrace of VAR and the bending of the rules in the Premier League. So it is what it is. It is what it is. Listen, there was a whole season. Okay, there was a whole season. To take care of this, and if you didn't want Arsenal to win, there was a whole season for that not to happen. Now it's going to come down to the wire. But it is what it is. But Samuel Luckhurst also gave us a little update on Mateus Fernandes, obviously one that has been linked with us for a while now. And, many fans do appreciate him. And he said Mateus Fernandes is admired, having been monitored by Jason Wilcox. He was the director of football at Southampton and could be on the move if West Ham are relegated. So nothing really new there from Samuel Luckhurst. And also this update, I mean, listen, this update is pretty straightforward update. I could have made this update probably, but he said Manchester United are primarily targeting players aged between 22 and 26, 26 years of age after the success of last year's summer transfer window. And I think, listen, we all know that. I mean, that's the basic general conversation that we have in this chat almost every time that we're live. Like everybody in this community knows that how many times have we mentioned a player and, people have said, well, yeah, but he's too old. He's 28, Ineos aren't going to go for him. We know that. So, I mean, that's not like, it's not major breaking news from Samuel Luckhurst there. I thought the first one was interesting because he's sort of saying 5 signings. He's like one of the only ones that's saying 5 signings. And he's also one of the only ones that has sort of mentioned 3 central midfielders. Others keep saying that United are 2 and potentially we'll get a 3rd if they sell Ugarte. But I think expectations are we should be selling Ugarte. Ugarte should be sold and we should be getting in 3 because we have to get in 3. If you sell Ugarte, you have to buy 3. There's no other way around it. I think if you sell Ugarte and Ineos don't sign 3 midfielders, I think they're making a mistake. They're leaving us shorthanded, and I think it's bad execution of a plan for next season, and it's going to leave us susceptible, and probably give us a lot of difficulties through next season. So I do hope that we do that sort of stuff. Now there's been updates, surrounding the midfield area, and a couple new players sort of popping up on the radar, but they are coming from fringe sources, so you do got to take it with like a bit of grain of salt for now until maybe some of these stories are picked up by more credible sources, higher tier sources. But this one specifically for the midfield, I mean, this is coming from I don't really know this source, but too much. But there has been a report that Manchester United officials held initial talks with AFC Bournemouth today to discuss the situations of Eli Jr., Krupi, Alex Scott, and Tyler Adams. All these 3 players from Bournemouth have been linked to Manchester United. Tyler Adams and Alex Scott have been linked for quite some time. Even Junior Krupi has been linked with us as well. And, we are sort of in the period where, things are going to start heating up and getting, start advancing a lot more because there's 2 matches left in the Premier League, 2 matches left in our season. And then, from the end of the season, basically, there's a small little window up until the World Cup starts. And the World Cup's going to start, starts very soon, June 12th, I believe. So there's not a whole lot of time for players that are going to be involved in there. But what we might see is United doing deals for players that aren't, actually involved in the World Cup that we can go and go get them done in the meantime. And I do like Alex Scott. I like the guy. I like the player. I think you know, depending on the price, of course, as always. But I think he could be a good addition if we go and get him. Tyler Adams is a good player as well. For the fees that I would imagine they go for, I think they would be good signings. And yeah, and I'm just sorry, I'm trying to read and talk at the same time. So Andy Mitten has given us a couple updates, and Laurie Whitwell has given us a couple updates as well. Obviously, we've seen Marcus Rashford just won La Liga with Barcelona. His future is still up in the air. We got to see what happens with him, but Laurie Whitwell, I see, giving us some breaking news here on Tchouaméni as well, so we'll get to that in a second. Just popped up on the screen right now, but let me hit this update real quick, okay? And because I mentioned Joshua Zirkzee just before, okay? And I'm, going off of the Samuel Luckhurst update where he said United would look to get in a backup striker, and trying to, I guess, put 2 and 2 together. Maybe I'm trying to put 2 and 3 together, but I would say, if we're actually going to go for backup striker, I do think that, that definitely means there's no room for Joshua Zirkzee, because I think he would be, I would prefer him as a 10, but there's no room in the 10 for him with Bruno Fernandes and even Mason Mount, even though Mason Mount's not always really available. But, with Bruno, you're never going to play anyway, really, and you're never going to really have a chance. And I don't rate him as a striker. I don't think he's good enough to be a striker for us. I don't see the qualities he has that I would like in a striker. So for me, if we're gonna go for backup striker, I do think that does actually mean that Joshua Zirkzee will go out the door. And Andy Mitten has actually given sort of a lengthy update, so bear with me while I read this. But on Joshua Zirkzee's future at Manchester United, and he said, I think the overall frustration with him is he trains really well. He's a very popular member of the dressing room. People refer to him all the time. He's seen as being hugely talented, but he's not doing that on the pitch. He has these little cameos where he comes on, leads United away, leads away, and he does well for 9 minutes or whatever it was, but the overall contribution from him has been underwhelming. So there's also a feeling that he could do well in a really good team, and he was also there, and he was also there's some sympathy for him because he was brought in by one manager, then he was asked to play in a different system, but it doesn't mean that he's good enough to be playing regularly for Manchester United. If a big offer came in for him, then I think United would be amenable to selling him. Is a big offer going to come in for him? I think it needs a manager who thinks he would fit perfectly into my system, and I wouldn't be surprised if he excelled somewhere else yet. But yet another disappointing signing for Manchester United. And I think he sort of summed that up to basically how I feel about it, and that's why I do say, and I hold the opinion, that Joshua Zirkzee doesn't really fit for what we need. I'm not saying that he's necessarily a bad player. I do sort of agree with Andy Mitten on, listen, if he goes somewhere else, I think he could have success if he goes back to Italy or some other club and plays there and plays in a different system and maybe a different league and under different circumstances. But for Manchester United, he was signed for Erik ten Hag. Erik ten Hag is no longer here. We've had Ruben Amorim. We changed the system. Ruben Amorim is no longer here. We have Michael Carrick now, and we changed the system again. And we're playing a different formation. And, he's been okay, I guess, at times. But, for Manchester United, we could do better and we could do more and we can get somebody that can give us more. And so, I think we bought him at one time for one thing, and things have changed. And so now I don't think that he fits the picture, unfortunately. And some people might think that that's harsh or whatever, and they like him and they believe in him, and that's fine. But I do think that that's sort of what we're looking at. I just think that he doesn't really fit the overall aspect of the project going forward, and we can get somebody that does fit it better. We could get a different piece to the puzzle that fits the puzzle a lot better than Joshua Zirkzee. So The one thing I will say is that, I mean, he says big offer. I mean, I think, in terms of big offer, I don't think it needs to be, record breaking type of offer. I think what United would like is anything close to recouping the money. If United can get close or at least break even on what they spent to sign him, if they could get that, I think they'll take it. I don't think it's gonna. When he says big offer, it's not 60 million. It's whatever we have left owed for Joshua Zirkzee. If we can, if it's 35 million, if we can sell him for 30 or 32 million or whatever it may be, somewhere around there, I think United will take it because they'll recoup most of the money and they can move on and they can go and get somebody else. It balances out the books and, everything is sort of fine. And well in that department. And they'll do the same for Manuel Ugarte. But we all know that there is interest in Joshua Zirkzee. There was interest in Joshua Zirkzee in January from Serie A specifically. And there's interest in Manuel Ugarte as well. So there are clubs that are willing to buy these players. Depending how much or what the fee is kind of a different story, but there is clubs interested. So, that's sort of at least the first good starting point. If we're looking to sell these guys and move them on. So we'll see, how that sort of goes. I again, for me, if I'm taking charge, the first two things I'm doing is I'm selling Ugarte and I'm selling Zirkzee. And then we're moving forward with our transfer plans. And we'll do it simultaneously, but what I'm saying is, these two guys, we definitely need to move them on, and let's go out and start getting targets. And let's start bringing players in. And let's start our process. Let's start getting people in. So, for me right now, I would like to see them leave. I would like to see Ineos, do things that, in my opinion, that's proactive, because United have been in places before where we have players like these guys where we can easily just not sell them. And we can easily just keep them and say, well, we're not going to get the money that we want back. And, it's not a good look for our books. And, we can just kind of use them as squad players to fill out the depth. But we've sort of been there before. Sometimes just having the bodies or the numbers for the depth doesn't mean that you have actual depth. Because, like I've been arguing, you look at our team sometimes. Okay. And we're in situations where we're in matches and, we're not playing well and the team is struggling and we need somebody to come on and positively impact the game and help us get a foothold and, make something happen, create or score or whatever it is. And you look to that bench many times and you start going down the list of the bench and you're just like, no, there's nobody really on there that fills you with confidence. It's like, put him on because he's going to impact the game because they've done it before. You go there and you go, I guess we could put Zirkzee on, but, is he going to do something? I don't know. We'll give it a go. Goes on. It's not really the big enough of an impact that we need. Maybe the midfield is struggling. There's only Ugarte there. Everybody basically chooses to skip Ugarte because he's not going to give what we need during that match to start winning the game, to start winning the battle. So we need better than those guys because we need options off of the bench, especially for next season where, okay, we might have our starters, but if our starters aren't doing it, there's got to be a couple guys on the bench that we look to that say, well, listen, we didn't give you the start, but you have talent and you have the ability to change the game. Go in there and do it now. And they come on the pitch and they actually do it is the point, is that they actually can get it done and actually make it happen, because that's how we're going to get more points next season. That's how we're going to be able to stay competitive next season, because football, as we all know and as we all seen, is a crazy game. And, sometimes the unexpected happens and you go into a match, you think you're going to win it. The team's playing like crap, or, some of your players that have been really in form and on fire just not doing it that game, or they're struggling, and you need somebody else to come in. And these other teams that are ahead of us, that are performing better than us and that have been more consistent than us, they have this aspect in their team. There's loads of times where they have these players that they are considered their starters. They're not getting the job done. They go to the bench. They come on, and these guys, they either score a goal, create a goal. The Arsenal match was one yesterday. Prime, pure example. I mean, Martin Odegaard was sort of, Arsenal's player at one point. He sort of lost his spot, but they were struggling immensely, Arsenal, for large periods of the game yesterday, and Martin Odegaard came on and he created the goal. But he came on, he had an impact. And they switched tons of players around. Manchester City has like 2 teams to get things done. So part to go, it says, hey bro, do you guys accept cards or just cash for La Liga winner Marcus Rashford MBE? No, we'll take cash, bro. We'll take cash. We'll take cash. Listen, I'm okay. Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, do the deal. You know what I mean? Do the deal. Like, you guys should be happy with him. I'm fine with him going. I don't care. The deal should happen. So it should happen. Listen, he's happy there, and he's doing good there. He scored a banger yesterday. I saw it. I was watching the game. And it's exactly what I was saying, 12 months ago, 14 months ago. That was like, he needs to leave. He needs to leave. He needs a fresh start. We need a fresh start from him. We're going in our direction. He's gone in his direction. And there's no reason why, some of our fans, they want him back. And I'm not one of these people. Like, I'm like, dude, we've already moved on, man. We've already moved on. He's moved on. We've moved on. Everybody's in a better place than when we were together. Why would you want to go back? I think this is one of the things that some people in the world don't really understand. They think because like things have improved and things have changed from his aspect and our aspect, that they're like, oh, now we're in a better place, so now we can be together. And it's like, no, like that doesn't work like that. We're in a better place because we moved away from each other and we were allowed to grow and go in different directions. You don't then go back to the same union and be in a relationship that obviously ended with problems, because there's still going to be problems there, and it's not going to work out the way you think it's going to work out. It never really does. So, oh, he's good. Whatever happens, absolutely love him. Listen, I wish it didn't go the way it did, but it did go the way it did. So it is what it is, you know what I mean? And I never really questioned his ability. It was just his attitude, and his attitude, and it's not all his fault. Our club has blame for it because we were run poorly and like shit for so many years. And we're still not run the best. But, during that period that he came up in, was really, really hard because it was really run absolutely dreadful. So, but, we're on the path. Like, just, he's won a league title at Barca. He scored a banger in a El Clasico yesterday. He's done well this season for you guys. I personally don't see what the problem would be from Barcelona side to sign this guy, because 26 million, yeah, he's on high wages, but everybody knows that he's a good player. He's done well, and he doesn't need to come back to us because he's done. The Rashy speech gave me the motivation to move on from my breakup. You're the GOAT, man. Well, listen, that's what it is. Like, it's you got to. I'm glad I could help, but you got to. I'm one of these people. I don't believe in going back, man. Like you were there. It happened. Everything happens for a reason. I know that's like the oldest saying in the world, and it's like cliche or whatever, but it's true. Like, I think for me personally, the one thing is like, the saying that I have, that I believe in is, what's meant for me will never miss me, and what misses me was never meant for me. Um, and that's so I kind of apply that to everything. And that's how I look at this sort of stuff. Like, if it was meant to be, he wouldn't have left. He would still be here. It wouldn't have went the way it went. And so, but it did go the way it went. And so it just is what it is. And everybody has to keep moving forward. You know, if you want anything, um, to grow, and to continue, going forward. So I have no sort of animosity towards him in any sort of way like that. I just, I don't believe that he should come back. And whatever happens in his future, whether he stays with Barca or he doesn't, I mean, he goes somewhere else. But he shouldn't be coming back to Manchester United. I think that door is closed. I made one exception in my life on that, and it was Cristiano Ronaldo, because from the second Cristiano left the club, I didn't want him to leave the club. Well, I wanted him to stay there forever. And, arguably, if you're talking about bringing back one player that left your club, it's going to be Ronaldo or Messi, because of who they are and what they've done. And even that, there's a lesson learned there. Like, even Ronaldo coming back, I can guarantee it did not go the way that millions of people envisioned it in their head for, how many ever years that was. It certainly didn't happen for me. Like, was it horrible? No. Was there good and bad? Yes. But I mean, it didn't go the way that anybody sort of really envisioned it. All right. He came back. He did good. He scored a bunch of goals. We enjoyed it, but there was a lot of problems and baggage that sort of came up with that. At one point, half the fan base went at Ronaldo and said he's the problem. And then it ended very poorly, with him basically doing an interview with Piers Morgan, throwing the manager under the bus, and then leaving. So, who would you want United to buy, since you guys are back in UCL? Players would love to play there now, since you have UCL footy for next season. Well, I mean, specifically, based out of all the players we're linked to, I don't really have too much of a specific preference. I like the targets we have. I would just like us to get some of these targets. Like, I do like Alex Scott. I like Mateus Fernandez. I mean, obviously, Tchouaméni has been mentioned to us, and it keeps on going because of the Real Madrid, sort of meltdown saga that's going on over there. So that's not, it's going to get more louder now. Elliot Anderson is on our radar. Like, I do think we have a lot of very good targets that are being reported. Some people have preferences. Specifically, I just think, listen, I think we have sort of a very good list right now. I think, just sign me a couple of them, but ultimately for me, the bigger goal is the amount of signings out of the list, because I think the list is very good. So I don't really have, like, usually there's always, like, in past transfer windows or stuff, we get linked to some, like, washed player that nobody really wants, and nobody really rates, and you say, bro, like I think one time, like, we were linked to, like, Mitrovic, you know what I mean? And nobody at United wants Mitrovic. Like, he's not, everybody knows he's not good enough. He was old. He was pretty much washed. He's not, no team in the top 4, top 6 of any league is signing Mitrovic at that age. So it was like, we don't want these players. We don't want, like, an Agallo, stuff like that. But we don't really have that right now. Some people are very iffy on Baleba, because he hasn't had a great season, and maybe he's like sort of that one player that like there's a large consensus that people don't really want him. I'm not like that much against him because again, he's a young guy, so I think depending on the fee, you know, you can take the risk there, and it would be a decent risk to take. I think there's, risk involved with any player anyway, but, with him, I can kind of see it, but he is like 21. He had a really good season last season. He didn't have a great season this season, but Brighton didn't have a great season this season. We've seen him, what he could do when he's really good. We've seen, sort of his lower end. So it's kind of a bit split. So I think you can, make an argument for it. I more specifically I'm more locked in and concerned on we need to sign a certain amount of players for the depth with the quality. Like I've been saying, I want 3 central midfielders. I think it's a must that we get 3 central midfielders. And out of the list that we have in front of us, you sign 3 central midfielders from that list, the team definitely improves to a certain degree. I mean, I think it's going to be very hard to replace what Casemiro gives us and has given us and can give us. But that's always going to be, it's always going to be a challenge in itself because Casemiro is a player that I classify as, he is a unique player. And to replace unique players, you can't actually 100% replace a unique player because they are unique. They give something that nobody else can really give. Now, you can get somebody that might be similar to them, but they're going to give something a bit different. So you can never 100% like for like replace a unique player. You could get another unique player that plays that position, but they're going to have a little bit different qualities. They're going to play the game a little bit differently. They might give you something that Cass doesn't give you, but they might lack something that Cass has, Like Temesgen here, he's got his preferences. He wants Ederson, Tonali, Lewis Hall, Maxi, Araujo, and Gallo. I don't even know who Echo Luce is. My brother is crazy about bringing Minta to United. I don't know why. See, but it is what it is. Like there's loads of people like that. They have their preferences. I kind of, what it is. I kind of used to be like that. I think my perspective changed on it. Since listen, at one point before I was doing these shows, I was a fan of these shows. Okay, so I used to watch a ton of them. All different types. United Stand, United View, all of them, whatever, name them all. I used to watch all of them. Football Terrace, all of them. And since sort of getting into this space, I was one of these people that I was the same. I'd be a commenter. I'd be a community person coming in saying, we need this guy. We need this guy. We got to get this guy. If we don't get this guy, this is a disgrace. But I sort of learned, like, one, it's totally out of our hand. And two, as much as fans want to project and say that they know way more than everybody else in every aspect of everything, okay? And they want to throw criticism left and right, which I do too. But sometimes, a lot of times, fans are very wrong. You know what I mean? Like, fans are very wrong. Like, they can be dead set on, like, this is the guy that we need. And I've seen many times where I've seen the fan base rally around the player and tell me that this guy is the answer. This guy is the guy that will solve all our problems. And we get that guy in, and that guy is a flop and is the furthest thing away from what we needed and what was going to work for us. So I don't no longer really do that too much. I don't get, I don't get too hardcore into it like I used to, because I think, one, it's a bit all for nothing. And two, I mean, these guys are supposed to be the experts. So I sort of let them make the decision, and then we talk about it. And, we see how it goes from there. You've been poorly, suffering badly from asthma and hay fever. Oh, you have asthma. I'm sorry. Have you been on your holidays? No, no. Holidays going later, well into July. So, but I'm okay. I was sick Sunday, but I'm better now. So, or Saturday. I was sick Saturday, but I'm better now. So, but hopefully, I wish you, feel better with your hay fever and your asthma. Sorry about that. Sorry you're feeling bad. Um, but yeah, I mean, Fabrizio gave us this update, okay? Since we're talking about targets, all right? And this came yesterday? Manchester United are monitoring Tchouaméni. Or however you pronounce his name. I pronounce it Tchouaméni, but probably wrong, but I don't care. However, no serious efforts are being made currently because Real Madrid are not open to selling. Tchouaméni has publicly expressed his desire to stay and help restore the club. If Real Madrid decide to part ways in the summer, he would be a dream target for United. Now, listen, obviously, if somebody like Tchouaméni is available, I'm going to obviously say, yeah, let's go get him. You know what I mean? Because I do rate him, and I think he's a good player. And I would like to get him. And he's sort of a big player to get. So, I mean, well, I still find it a bit hard that happens. I mean, obviously, I think ultimately that really comes down to Real Madrid because, like I said earlier, Real Madrid is sort of, to me, they're the top club. They've been the top club for a while. I mean, Barca's similar as well, but it's similar to United. There's loads of players, we've seen them come to United, that they will move heaven and earth to not leave Manchester United because they don't want to leave, because they know wherever they leave from United, they're going to go down. They're not going to a bigger club. They're going to a smaller club. And with the likes of Real Madrid, you're at the club. There's no really going up. I mean, you can go to a club that's still pretty high up. You can go to Bayern. You can't go to Barca from Real Madrid. I mean, a couple players have done it in the past, but they don't do that, and it hasn't happened in any recent time. You can go from Real Madrid to, United or whatever, but Madrid is very similar to United, in my opinion. You go there as a player, you don't really want to leave unless some shit happens. You know what I mean? Even if you're not playing a lot, most of the players, they'd be like, yeah, I'd rather be a squad player in Real Madrid than go to some other team and maybe be a starter, but I'm not playing for Real Madrid. So I think with Tchouaméni, I do think it's like that. Whatever's going on there, these punching people in the face, knocking them out, they're fighting, whatever. I don't think that really changes anything, because he's probably like, well, fuck you, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying. You can go, or whatever, or we both stay. But I ain't leaving because of you. I want to stay here. So I think the only thing that really comes down to that is ultimately if Real Madrid, they have the final say. If Madrid go to Tchouaméni and say yeah, we don't want you and we're going to sell you, it kind of runs out of an option, because at that point, again, I know sometimes people forget that footballers are human beings, and not robots or machines. But I think in any aspect in humanity, wherever you are, whatever situation you're in, if you're in a social setting with friends or people, or you're at work, if anybody comes to you at any point and they're just yeah, we don't really want you here, you know what I mean? You're not gonna stay. You're not gonna be you might kind of do it in the beginning out of spite, but at some point you're gonna be all right, fuck off, and you're gonna leave. You're not gonna, if you don't feel wanted by some place that you're at, you're not gonna stay. If you're at work and they are basically telling you, yeah, we don't really want you here. In the beginning you might stay around and be petty and make life hard for them and whatever. But at some point, you're going to be you know what, I'm fucking over this. I'm out. So I think with Tchouaméni, I do think it comes down to Real Madrid. And actually Laurie Whitwell just gave us an update on Tchouaméni literally 20 minutes ago, saying, I think he's an interesting one to observe. Previously, I got the impression that he was a consistent performer for Real Madrid and questioned if they would actually sell him, if he would leave, or if a new contract is in the offering. He said maybe this unrest at Madrid changes things, and United are there to ask the question. And listen, that's fine. Like, I think United should be poking and prodding and trying to do whatever they can. We should be following up. Any leads, interest, whatever. We should be sort of, as he's put it, there to ask the question. I think we absolutely should. There's a difference between sitting there and asking the question and the deal is going to happen, of course. But I'm all here for that. I mean, we should basically be sticking our nose everywhere, to try and get the best deal or get a step ahead of some of the other competition. Because obviously, let's just put this into perspective as well. Like, if Real Madrid do come out and they're like, yeah, we're open to selling Tchouaméni or whatever, like, we're not going to be the only club in for him anyway. Like, there's going to be like 10 clubs lined up for him. So, it's not even just like, oh, once Real Madrid decide to sell him, he's a United player. Like, there's going to be big teams fighting for him. So, we should be right now like, oh, there might be some problems there. There's been some murmurings. Let's do our homework at least. Let's call them up. Let's ring them up. Let's call his agents. Let's see what the story is, what the feeling is. Let's get ahead of the game. Let's make it known we have interest. Significant interest. And that way, if anything does transpire and he ends up leaving, like, that could play into our hands. Or he remembers, like, listen, like, these guys were knocking on my door, or, they were ringing me up before everybody. So that could happen as well. Leeds and Spurs are 0-0. Sorry to hear that you was poorly too, Eric. Yeah, it's okay, though. I'm all right. Did you see the news about the hantavirus? Yeah, I saw that. No lockdowns. There's no lockdowns. I tell you this right now. They listen, after what happened last time, they can try and do another one, but people are not going to respond. I mean, some people might, but a lot of people are not going to follow along with that. They blew a lot of credibility with that, and I think if they even try to do that, the only way that would happen is if people physically, with their eyes, were watching people sort of drop in the street in real time. But I think if they try to do such a thing again, there's loads of people in the world that they're not going to listen. So I'm not worried about that. It looks like West Ham might be going to be relegated tonight. I do have to check the table because I don't even know what it's really looking like. Craig Millington says, why the people who runs this club so bad at what they do? Well, one, because we have our main owners, which is the Glazers. They just bought us for money, so they only care about money. And they know nothing about the sport, and they don't care about the sport. They don't care about the culture. They don't care about the history of the sport or the club itself. We are literally just basically to them, we are just a property, a passive income property to them. So that's number one. Number two, we have Ineos. And listen, I think Ineos have implemented changes that have been positive. They've made mistakes and made some bad mistakes, and maybe they've done some things that weren't so great either. But there is a bit of a distinctive, at least, like, whether you rate Jason Wilcox or not, whether you think he's good enough or not. I mean, when you compare him to Ed Woodward, who had no knowledge of football at all and was a banker, and when you compare him to Richard Arnold, who was literally exactly the same as Ed Woodward, Jason Wilcox does have more knowledge and more experience as a football person than both of those guys combined. So that is an improvement in that area. And then, we have Omar, who's at City, and he has experience there. And then we do have Christopher Vivell. So, in my opinion, Christopher Vivell is probably the best guy we have. Um, his really good reputation, a really good CV from his time at RB Leipzig. I think he has brilliant player identification, player ID, talent. If you look at sort of his past history, you see the players that he signed when he was in the position at RB Group. The players that he, found very early on for cheap prices, very low fees, and then they became the players that they became, and then I ended up selling them for, loads of money. Um, we have improved in that area. So, and we are doing a bit better. But like I always said, there's no way that these people are going to be able to get everything right. And ultimately, when it's all said and done, after we do this thing for the next couple years, the big picture is, well, have they done more good than bad? Because ultimately, that's the goal that they really need to hit. They need to get more transfers correct than they get wrong. They're definitely going to get transfers wrong. They've already done so, but I think the ratio right now is they've gotten more right than wrong. But over the course of time, so far with the manager's decision, they really, they've gotten that more wrong than right. They need to correct that. They need to make sure, going forward that they're getting that call right. And it looks like they're going to pick Michael Carrick. And, this next decision, it has to be the right one because they have to start, getting this stuff correctly. But yeah, I mean, it's not an ideal situation. Obviously, the ideal situation is we would prefer to not have the Glazers here at all. We would prefer to have completely brand new owners. We would prefer to have somebody buy the club, come in, clear all our debt, and sort of start completely brand new and fresh. We don't have that. We're not getting that. Not right now, at least. Again, I'm not one of these people. I don't think it's all 100% negativity under Ineos. But I don't say Ineos are like the saviors of our club either. I think that there's sort of, maybe like a 50-50 chance they could do good or bad, they could have some sort of success or it can end up in complete failure. But I do think, that sort of aspect takes time. I mean, I linken it sort of to even if we had a full sale and we didn't have either one of these people in charge of our club and we had somebody totally different, that person coming in, for them to implement the changes at Manchester United and for it to operate a whole lot better and get better and, probably be like the pinnacle, it's still going to take time. Like it's still going to take 3 to 5 years. People don't like to hear that because, I don't know what it is. They demand instant success. They think the job, is easy to do or something like that. Or, I don't really know what it is about them, why they think that way, but they do. But it's not. I mean, if we had somebody that came in, cleared all the debt and all that stuff, the way the club was running, all right, to you have to change everything. And then when you implement change, like it takes a while for things to, start operating correctly, catch up to speed, and actually start getting going and getting moving. It's essentially like a car to a similar degree. Like you could have a car, the car is run down, you're not maintaining it properly, you're not doing your oil changes, you're not changing the brake pads, you're not rotating the tires or getting new tires, you just sort of let it just decay. Okay, well, you still have the vehicle and you can start fixing it up, but to fix up all the things after neglecting it or causing it harm or damage for the amount of time that we've done, you're not going to do it within like a day. You might have to tune up the engine, get a new engine, fix the tires, get new brakes, whatever it may be to basically restore the car to what it is. It's going to take time, and it's a bit similar um, with Manchester United. So, I mean, listen, we've had a bit of up and down. I think again we're at a period where it's very pivotal. Ineos have some big sort of decisions that they have to make. They have some big calls that they have to get right, and this will dictate ultimately what happens to our club going forward and what happens to basically them being here. Um, it's a weird situation that we're in. Um, People want the club to do good. People want the club to succeed. People want us to win the Premier League and win the Champions League, but they hate the Glazers, and some people hate Ineos. And it's like, well, we can't. It's weird to have both. It's weird because if you want the club to do good, that means that Ineos have to do good. And if you hate Ineos, you don't really want them to do good, do you? You want them to fail because most people will say if they fail, they'll have to leave. But if they fail, that means our club fails. And if our club fails, that means we're shit and we're bad. So it's a weird dynamic that we're in. It's very strange because to me, it's like you almost have to sort of pick one at some point. And it's like, you can't say I want United to win the Premier League, but then say you want Ineos out because they both won't work at the same time. We either completely fail and then Ineos and the Glazers, maybe they have to sell and maybe they got to go. But that's after the complete destruction of our club, essentially, where things get so bad that money stops coming in. We're not anywhere near Europe for multiple seasons. We can't get players in. We drop way down in the table consistently. And after a period of time, and then maybe they'll go. Or, they could do a good job. They can succeed. We win things, but then, it might be harder for them to go because now we're winning and now we're making more money. So instead of worrying about getting a new stadium, put the money towards top signings. Yeah, but again, it still doesn't really go like that, though. It doesn't necessarily work like that because we're not. It's not like we're allocating any funds. We're not allocating funds from like would-be transfers towards the stadium. The stadium is being funded completely, basically separate from the club in a way. Like, if we don't build the stadium, it's not like we're gonna have an extra 300 million to spend on players. That's it. It doesn't correlate that way. It doesn't work like that. Now, in the back end, we might have to pay for it because we're gonna have to repay at some point. However, it's privately funded, but because of the rules of the Premier League, PSR and all that stuff, it's not like we could just like take that money and inject it into the club. We need deals. We need brand deals for that. We need to go through sort of the legal way. The only thing that really can be done at this moment in time is one, we can do better on the pitch, which will give us better sponsorship deals, which will give us more money, which will give us more money to spend on players. Or the second option would be, Ineos could do a deal kind of with themselves. I don't know the legality 100%, but because, they could Ineos could sponsor United, I guess. I don't know if that's a conflict of interest, really. But they had a sponsorship with Spurs, and they owned us, and that wasn't a problem. So, a lot of people have floated the idea that Ineos could, like, do a sponsorship deal where, like, they sponsor our seats, like they did to Tottenham, or they sponsor our kits or something, which allows them to, like, inject a bunch of money in, which they could do that, but it doesn't make sense to do it because they only own 28% of the club, and people don't like this aspect, but it literally doesn't make sense for you to put in more money and get nothing out of it. So that's sort of where we get plugged up by the Glazers. Because ultimately, if the Glazers are willing to sell more shares, I'm sure Sir Jim would be interested in buying more of it. And if Sir Jim could acquire more of it, where basically he's the majority owner, then maybe we would see something like that happen, because then it would make sense for Sir Jim to pump in more of his own money essentially into the club because he actually owns it. But with the way things stand and the way the situation is, like, I think I just saw a report the other day that they were saying, I think after 2027, right, the Glazers can sell the club to whoever they want, and Sir Jim has no say in it. Sir Jim, like, if the Glazers decide they sell the club for $7 billion, like, Sir Jim can't stop them, and his shares get sold as well. So when you put that into context, it doesn't make sense to do a sponsorship deal for 100 million, 200 million, or 300 million to pump that money into the club when you don't own it, and the people that own the majority of it can sell it at any time, and then you're out. You know what I mean? You're not even an owner anymore. You're not involved in it at all. So Natasha says it'd be a long time before United will win the league. Well, listen, if we do what we need to do, we could do it in 3 to 4 years. If we do what we need to do, if we do the right things, and we have a good plan and it's executed properly, and I guess maybe a little bit of luck along the way as well, because sometimes you need a little bit of luck. There's no reason why you can't do it in 3 to 4 years. There's no reason. I mean, we already started this process since Ineos has come in, okay, and they've made all the changes that they've made, and obviously we're continuing under them in this fashion. Like, we already have the ball rolling, so it's already about 2 years, or it is 2 years, 2 years plus going in. So I think looking at that situation that we had when they came in, and looking at how much of a mess of a club, and then looking at the situation in which how it can be dealt with under this current, partnership regime type of thing, I think 5 years is a fair timeline. So we're like another 3 years if we do everything proper. If we actually go get the correct targets, if we build out the squad properly, if we hire and have the correct manager, if we have good seasons, there's no reason why in about 3 years from now we can't do it. I think obviously right now we're a bit still far away from it, and we have a lot of work to do, and a lot of stuff to fix. So I'm not taking this 3rd place finish and back into Champions League football as like, well, now next year we're gonna go and we're gonna actually go challenge for the title and win the league. Because I don't see that happening. I think again next season is one where we have to, at the very least, replicate what we just did this season, and it's going to be a lot tougher. But we need to finish in the top 4. I would like top 4. I don't care if top 5 gets you Champions League. I would like top 4. We would like to try and improve on the points that we've gotten this season and get more, because that's an improvement. And do better in all the competitions, and basically just get stability. Just get stability in the fact of, no. Like, we're not yo-yoing anymore. We're not going from 3rd to 8th or, 2nd to 6th. We're staying here. We're staying 3rd, 4th, maybe 2nd. We're staying here. We're not moving from here. This is our sort of new level. Back to what basically we were doing post Sir Alex, kind of, for a couple years, where it was like we can't win we're not winning the title anymore, but we're finishing in top 4. We fell all the way off of that, so we got to get back to there first, and then from that position, once we finish 2nd, 3rd, or 4th, 2 or 3 seasons in a row, then it's really time to go and push and say, all right, this is the year where we go and take 1st place. So okay, a little bit of a speed round here, okay, for some of the little bit of a speed round here for some of the updates because there's a bunch of like random sort of updates from like sort of random or just sort of less credible um outlets or journalists. Okay, this one's coming from Sport Media Set. All right, um they are Italian outlet. Okay, and they're reporting representatives from Manchester United were present at AC Milan's defeat to Atalanta over the weekend to closely monitor Rafael Leão. Coincidentally enough, we're linked to Ederson, so maybe they were there scouting not only Ederson, again, even though he's been a target for us for quite some time, but also possibly maybe Rafael Leão. Two birds, one stone, I guess. They go on to say Milan are reportedly open to a sale this summer and could consider offers around 50 million euros, which is 43 million pounds. He's been named a couple times. I don't really feel like is a player that we're going to end up getting. I do kind of feel like at this moment in time, he is one of these stories. Just because there's nobody of real serious, listen, Fabrizio Romano he's the journalist, but also he is the Italian journalist. Like anything that's going to come out of Italy, Fabrizio being Fabrizio, like Fabrizio is going to have he's going to be the one with the story. You know what I mean? And if Rafael Leão is actually, if there's even a chance that he's going to go to Manchester United, like Fabrizio Romano is going to get that update and he's going to give it to us. And as far as I've seen, Fabrizio Romano has not ever mentioned Rafael Leão. So I kind of think that this is this one that he might leave Milan and Milan might need money and they might be looking to sell him. And, I think it's one of these stories that, again, it's like, just throw Manchester United in there because it's United. It gets a lot of traction and it drums up a lot of interest. And so that's what I think that is. So I'm not really bought into that Leão thing as it is right now. I think it's far-fetched. I don't think there's any real bite to it as we stand here. I do see that Tottenham winning 1-0 versus Leeds. So there is that. There is that. Three midfield signings. Okay. 150 million pounds. Three midfield signings. You got Baleba, Wharton, Alex Scott, Tyler Adams, João Gomez, Mateus Fernandes, Tchouaméni, Ederson, Elliot Anderson, and some other guy. I mean, out of this for 150 million. I still really like Mateus Fernandes. I would get him in as sort of our third option. Between him or Alex Scott is a bit difficult for me, to be quite honest. I would get one of them in for sure. I would like Elliot Anderson, but if we can't get Elliot Anderson, I'd try to go. I tried to go for. I think Tchouaméni is a bit different than Elliot Anderson. I mean, if we couldn't get Elliot Anderson, I'd probably get Sandro Tonali, but he's not on this list, so. Ederson. I mean, listen, I don't know. Listen, I don't think Ederson's a bad deal, but he's not going to replace Casemiro, is he? I mean, for me, ultimately, like I said, I think if you're trying to replace Casemiro as much as possible, I think Tonali is probably the guy. But I don't know if I don't think we'll be able to get him, but I think Tonali probably has the quality that we're looking for in that position. I think Ederson he could be a good player. I'm a bit worried about sort of the Serie A players though, because we haven't had sort of the best of luck with them, and that, no disrespect to the Serie A, but it is a way slower paced league, and it's less physical as well. And I just sort of, I don't know, I look at the Premier League and I look at the Serie A, and I'm like, bro, you get a player from the Serie A, and I'm like, I just don't see them handling the Premier League. And I know somebody out there is screaming right now, well, Tonali came from the, but Tonali is different. Like, he was a young guy, and he has different characteristics. I don't think, like, Ederson is not like that. And also for us, it just hasn't gone well. I mean, we got Rasmus Højlund from there, it didn't go well. We got Zirkzee from there, it hasn't gone well particularly. And also, I mean, we got Dorgu there, and it didn't start well. The only difference is that he's a young guy, and he's actually got speed to him. So, he actually has pace, which helps. Ederson doesn't have pace. Ederson can do well in the Serie A with a lack of pace. But you bring somebody with a lack of pace into the Premier League, you can struggle immensely there. So I don't know. I think like 40 million for him, 40 million pounds for Ederson is not a bad deal at all. I think it's, a fair price. I think he's probably worth around 40 million for his ability. But I don't know. I mean, when I look at it, I say, well, I'd spend 40 million on Mateus Fernandez. I'd spend 40 million on Alex Scott. And I would feel a bit more confident about them because they play in the Premier League. I've seen what they can do, and I've seen that they can handle the league and they can handle the football. And I don't really need to guess too much on if there's going to be a compatibility issue between the football they're playing now and the football that they're going to be playing. So but Lori Whitwell did say that I think Ederson is in the list of names they're considering. My thoughts on it would just be maybe I'm a little bit stung by Manuel Ugarte experience. I don't know, but I'd always personally, in the right moment now, I'd prefer to go for a Premier League proven player. And that's also another thing. I mean, listen, Ugarte, we got him, and he hasn't worked out well necessarily. I have been saying for quite some time that I do buy into the Ineos judgment call in that Premier League proven players. I think I think what we did last summer has helped us in that aspect. I mean, Cunha and Embuemo integrated well. We didn't, we bought 4 players. We went 50% Premier League proven, but they were in an important position that we needed to address, and they had very big impacts in the season. And I think that mixture actually helped very well. So I don't think we have to buy all the players we buy are Premier League proven, but I think we should continue to buy at least a couple players from Premier League proven just for the balance. Sesko was a player that you would say is a bit more risky because he's a bit on the younger side. He's got good potential and ability already of what he has, but playing in the Bundesliga and paying the price we paid for him and coming to Manchester United and playing in the Premier League and not knowing, how he's going to necessarily adapt to the Premier League. And also we've seen that, for him, you can blame whatever. Some people might blame the manager, but I think that it was always going to happen. There's adjustment period of getting used to playing Premier League football, coming from Bundesliga football. It's very different. It took him some time. It took him about 6 months, basically. But after 6 months, he's been growing, and he's still growing, and he's gotten more accustomed, and he's been having bigger impacts in games, and he's been scoring more goals. Lemons, I mean, might be a bit different because he's a goalkeeper. And I think that's they still have their aspects, but it's a bit different. but he came in and he sort of just went right from the going. So I think we should listen in the example that I've seen. A lot of these teams that have maybe weren't so good at one point and now are good, or become better. They've all pretty much followed a similar blueprint in that they would go and poach players from other clubs in the Premier League. It is a bit expensive, but the price almost kind of justifies itself. Because you know what you're basically getting. You know the player can play the football. You know he can handle the league. You know he can handle the opposition. They've already been doing it. So you might pay an extra 20 million, and maybe there's a player out there that has the same level of ability, but you could get him for 20. But there's other factors that go into that. They have to change countries. They have to change where they're living. They have to get accustomed to all this stuff. These players already have basically done all of that to a certain degree. So, you look at City, they started off that way. Arsenal did something similar as well. Liverpool did it as well. They signed players from these other clubs, whether they signed players from Southampton, Crystal Palace. Sometimes it was from each other. They poached players. And we did that last summer. We poached a player from Wolves and we poached a player from Brentford, two clubs that are underneath us. Not last season, but, in general, they're underneath us. They're underneath us this season. And I think we have to do the same. Again, I think we need to go and buy at least, two players from the Premier League and poach them from, teams underneath us that we know that they can handle the league and handle the football, and then go get a couple other targets from somewhere else and balance it out. And I think that's probably the best course of action for us. So, the Atalanta CEO, by the way, did make a comment to Sky. He was asked about Ederson, and he said, "We have not received any official bid so far. There are clubs interested, but it's still early. We'll see at the right moment." So, I mean, that sort of lines up with the reporting. I mean, United have not, it's not reported United have made any actual official offer to Atalanta. I still think it stands on the table that we have agreed personal terms. I don't think that that's been, disproved or anything like that, and we don't need to have any contact with Atalanta at all to agree personal terms with Ederson. So, I think it's probably maybe just a matter of time for now. I mean, again, the price seems very straightforward. Considering the situation, it does seem like he'll go for 40, 45 million, around there. And, you basically just have to put that bid in, maybe a little bit of back and forth in the negotiations, how it's going to get paid, incentives or whatever. But I do think that one right now seems like it's lining up to be pretty straightforward. So we'll see. I think in a couple weeks, I think it'll, I think it'll heat up even more in a couple of weeks from now. So, Tottenham and Leeds are tied 1-1. So, Calvert-Lewin scored a penalty. Just keep everybody up to date with what's going on in the league. Tottenham are in 17th on 38 points currently. If it stays this way, it's the 88th minute. So there's probably like a good 5 to 8 minutes left in the match, depending on the injury time. And that would leave Spurs 2 points above West Ham in the relegation zone, the relegation fight. And yeah, listen, I think that all this stuff is going to go down to the last day. I mean, I've been saying this anyway, but I think the Tottenham West Ham sort of thing, I think that will go down to the last day, the last game, the last match. And I think the City and Arsenal thing will go down to the last game, last match as well. Obviously, City, they have one less match played, but if they win, they'll have 77. They'll be 2 points over Arsenal. But I don't know. I think if Arsenal, they could slip up in one of these games. I mean, they got to play Burnley. They are home, so you would expect them to win. But that Crystal Palace match on the last day of the game, the last game of the season, playing Crystal Palace away. I know Crystal Palace haven't been great this season, but that's still gonna be tough for them to do. So I think it could very much well go down to literally the last day. Oh, what else do we have here? Well, this was another update from Ty Marshall, different source, working for the Manchester Evening News, and he's the one that would also report on Ederson, and he said United are considering a £40 million move for Atalanta's Ederson this summer as part of a major midfield overhaul. Ederson is out of contract next summer and will leave Atalanta after talks with Atletico Madrid collapsed. Atletico are now expected to sign João Gomes instead, clearing the way for United. United plan to sign at least 2 new midfielders this summer and possibly 3 if Manuel Ugarte is sold, prioritizing an elite holding midfielder to replace Casemiro while adding depth. Elliot Anderson remains their top target, but they retain a strong interest in Carlos Baleba and are prepared to try and lure Tchouaméni to Old Trafford if he is allowed to leave. Ederson has emerged as a realistic and more affordable option given his contract situation. I do think that he is realistic, and definitely more affordable option. That is for sure. I do find it a bit interesting because obviously I do think like between Baleba, Tchouaméni, and Ederson, like we're only gonna sign one of these guys, I think. That's what it kind of seems like to me. I don't know. They seem to consider Elliot Anderson in sort of the same category to a certain degree. But the thing with Elliot Anderson for me is that like I view him as a bit more versatile. I view him as a bit more versatile in that he can get forward, he can help in the attack. So I see him a bit different than like, Ederson I see as a more traditional CDM. Even Tchouaméni is a bit more of a traditional CDM. And even Baleba is. Elliot Anderson I feel like is more of a he's more of a central midfielder in terms of like he can do well defensively, but he can definitely do well attackingly as well. So I think he's a little bit better in some regards, in some aspects. What happened? Oh my God. There's been 13 added minutes in this Tottenham Leeds game. So it is the 93rd minute right now. So there's another 10 minutes left in this match. And I mean, I just said 5 to 8 extra minutes at the 88th minute. But yeah, I didn't know what was going on in the game. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. Kind of crazy. But yeah, apparently Luke Shaw is set to be included in England's provisional World Cup squad. Well, that's what he wanted. United District giving us an update saying that United are ramping up plans to sign up to 3 new midfielders this summer amid uncertainty over the pursuit of Elliot Anderson. Their top target to replace departing Casemiro amid interest from Manchester City. With Casemiro leaving and Manuel Ugarte also expected to depart, the club is tackling a lack of depth in the pivot position. Sources indicate United are actively eyeing Atalanta's Ederson, appreciated by Director of Football Jason Wilcox as a solid Category B option, and Carlos Baleba, while Mateus Fernandes is also creeping up the club's midfield shortlist as he continues to perform admirably despite the London club's possible relegation. The club could spend around £150 million on reinforcements while also considering promotions from their promising academy talents. What I will say is that, yeah, we probably do need to spend around £150 million in the midfield. That seems like the most logical and plausible thing to do. We need 3 midfielders. We need one really big one decently sized big one, and then one basically smaller one, but still good enough that we can basically, you're not an experiment. You're not some 18-year-old kid that we just signed from South America that we're not going to see for 3 years. So I do think that has to go like that. 150, 160, because we still need to go and sign another 2 or 3 positions that we can. So, and it does make it a bit difficult because, listen, I think at the most, I will say United can spend probably, let's just say the maximum, 250 million this summer. There's no way we spend any more than that. I don't even think we'll spend 250 million. Maybe it'd be like 220 or 215. But if we spend in 150 million on 3 midfielders, we need some money left over, obviously, to go sign, a left back, backup striker. So we do also have to, sort of have a plan on how to spend that money in there. But I do think we're going to have to spend around 150 million for the midfield, for sure. So, and we need 3 new midfielders. And United District is another one that is sort of catching up to what I've been saying. Because I've been saying we need 3 midfielders, and we're gonna have to go and do it. And they're gonna have to go. They're gonna have to go and do it. So, today United District said that United are gonna go for 3 midfielders. I think Ty Marshall from the Manchester Evening News said we're going for 3 midfielders. Samuel Luckhurst has reported that we're gonna go for 3 midfielders. And I think, it is what it is. I think they're catching up now because I think it was quite obvious, for all the updates that we were getting for the past 2 months that United are going to sign 2 new midfielders. I'm like, well, but it's quite obvious and staring everybody in the face. We need 3 because Ugarte needs to be sold. And if you sell Ugarte, you need to buy another guy. There's no way around it. There's no way around it without being incompetent. There's no way around it without doing it wrong. I mean, could you sell Ugarte and buy two midfielders and have 2 new midfielders and Kobe Mainu, and that's your midfield for next season? You could do that if you choose to, but it's a really bad move and it's poor and it's gonna leave you exposed. So, I mean, you could do it, but you're leaving yourself open to problems and issues. So it doesn't really make sense. So when I say that they don't have a choice to do it, it's because it's not like we can actually necessarily get away with that. If that is what we do, and we don't sign 3 midfielders, or we sign 2, we keep Kobe, obviously, and we keep Ugarte, I still think that that's not good enough, that's poor. So... Andy Minton was asked about Ahmad's disappointing performances. We've talked about this before. Listen, there's no hiding it. There's no sugarcoating it or nothing like that. There's no excuses. He's had a poor season. He's had a poor season. It hasn't been his season. His performances have been lacking because we've seen what he can do. We've seen how good he can be, and he hasn't really been himself. So I still believe in Ahmad, and these things do sometimes happen, and I think as a club we have a responsibility. And I guess one of the tasks for Michael Carrick and the coaching staff going forward is, next season, how do we get Ahmad back to his best? Because quite clearly he hasn't been his best this season. I don't know what it is. Um, I don't know what it is or what's happened, but it hasn't gone right for him at all. This season he's been really, he's been a letdown. He's been disappointing, and I don't think that means that there's any reason to sell him. I don't think that the club is looking to sell him. I don't think they would sell him. I mean, it doesn't really make sense. I wouldn't be looking to sell him. Not after this season. Listen, you could have one sort of bad down season. Just make sure you don't have two bad down seasons in a row, because that's when it's like real trouble. So, I've been saying, I said it a couple games ago. I said, listen, I said he hasn't been able to figure it out this season, and it just hasn't come to him. It hasn't been sorted out. There's only a couple games left in the season. We've accomplished the ultimate goal of Champions League. That's secure. We have, two more jobs to do, which is to go win 6 points in the next 2 games, finish the season strong, and then the season's over. And and then we got to look the next season, and hopefully, he regroups, he sorts himself out a bit, and he needs to come back stronger, better, and improve for next season. That's really all he can do. Um, but yeah, I don't think there's any reason to really, be asking for him to be moved on or anything like that. The reason why I'm saying that is because Andy Minton was on TOT Devils, and he was asked about Ahmad and his disappointing performances, and if Manchester United would look to sell. And he said, "I don't want him. I don't want to band him in the same category as Joshua Zirkzee, as I've not heard any indication that Manchester United might consider moving Ahmad on." And we shouldn't. There shouldn't be. Unless some sort of a big significant offer comes in, where we're making like a significant profit, and it could help us maybe make like a beneficial move in the transfer market. But there should be no reason as to why we shouldn't be sitting there, like he said, banding him in the same category as Zirkzee or Ugarte, where it's like, we signed these players, they've been here for like a year or two, for like about 2 years. They haven't really shown anything that is basically above average on a consistent basis. Anything sort of special about them on a consistent basis. So I wouldn't band them together either. I wouldn't band them together. I think, Ahmad, he's just had a bad season, so he's gonna have to bounce back from it. Um, yeah. So I mean, as it stands right now, like Elliot Anderson is still our number one target, whether people think he's going to City or not. Um, he's still a number one target. So I think it's going to be a bit interesting once the season ends. The little gap in between the ending of the season and the start of the World Cup, because I think City would like to get that deal done before the World Cup starts. And I think United, if it were up to them, they would also like to get that deal done before the World Cup, because I think everybody knows, one, people are expecting to have a pretty good World Cup. Tuchel is there. The squad is good. So they expect him to go decently far. Everybody rates Elliot Anderson. They think he's a good player. And most people will probably tell you right now, he'll probably have a good World Cup. And as we all know, players that go to the World Cup or to the Euros and they have a good tournament, their price tends to go up. So I think both these teams, City and United, would like to avoid waiting for him to play out the World Cup, because most likely he'll have a good one, and then you're going to have to pay more money. So I think that little period in between the end of the season now, from the end of the season to the World Cup, I think it'd be interesting, because if City go in and actually acquire him and get the deal done, then obviously we have to pivot. And once we pivot, the targets are a bit different. So, things can start materializing from there. I think right now, the picture is we're doing, we're looking at basically everything. We're getting a lot of work done. There's about 10 players in the midfield linked to us that have been consistently linked to us that that appear to be on this list that we have. And I think we're doing as much work as we possibly can, preliminary work. Transfer fees, um, the package for the player, wages, how interested would the player be to signing for us. And then we're doing all this work on all these players, sorting it out. And then, once an opportunity opens, it's going to be, we go for Elliot Anderson. We either get him or we don't. If we don't get him, then we got to move on. And I think that one's sort of going to dictate how everything goes, because I don't think we'll see a bid come in for anybody. I don't think we'll actually propose a bid until the Elliot Anderson thing is wrapped up one way or another. Whether he goes to City or we get him, I don't think we'll actually see us move. I think we have that list and everything sort of has to wait on Elliot Anderson first. That thing has to be resolved. And then once that's resolved, one way or another, then we start going down the list for the other players. So I don't know. I find it a bit interesting because, there could be no deal before he goes to the World Cup. And, that might have to be one that's done later. And in that case, I think then United don't really have a choice, because they can't really be sitting waiting around till, mid-July to wait for Elliot Anderson for a player that we're not even, favorites to sign. We're second favorites. And we're going to have to wait basically like a whole month just to make a move. So I think right now, obviously, the season's still going, and the window is still a little bit away from opening. So I think they're just kind of waiting for the season to end. And I think then it's going to be interesting to see if either club move to try and sign him before the World Cup starts. And then what comes out of that. What else have we got? No penalty for Spurs. Oh, I don't know. That looked like a penalty to me. I think that was a pen, man. I just saw that clip. I think Spurs got done badly there. Leeds lucky. That should have been a pen. Should have been a pen. Match finished 1-1. Tottenham leads. So as things stand, like we said before, Tottenham 17th on 38 points, 2 points ahead of West Ham for the relegation spot. So we'll see how that's gonna go. That one's gonna come probably down to the last day. Who do West Ham have to play next? What's their schedule looking like? They gotta play Newcastle, and they are away to Newcastle, and then they play the last match of the season. They play at home versus Leeds, who just play Tottenham. So Leeds having a big sort of impact here on who's going to get relegated in the final days. Interesting stuff there. And then who do Tottenham have to play in the last two matches that they got? Let's see. Tottenham need to play. They got to play Chelsea away from home. And Chelsea are shit, but well, you know what? Tottenham have been in better form recently than Chelsea. So, I know Chelsea are ninth and they've had a better season, but Yeah, Chelsea are really struggling. They're really crap, aren't they? So, I mean, Chelsea are home versus Tottenham. That's a big match, though. It's a derby, London derby. Anything can happen in a derby. And then Tottenham on the last game of the season, they got to play against Everton. And Everton are a really tough team to play against. So, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. Do you think that the title will be decided on the last day? Um, I mean, it depends what happens next week. Um, it depends what happens in the next couple games. Well, not couple games. The next week, because obviously. Well, hold on. All right, so both win. All right? Let's say City win because they're a game behind. They'll have 77. Arsenal will be on 79. If they both win, they'll still be 2 points off. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, probably. Yeah, it'll probably go down to the last day. Um, it's been looking like that for a few weeks anyway. But yeah, because I mean, listen, I what I always do is City have 35 games played. They have one game less than everybody else except for, the other team. Um so I always add in the points before they play just because that's how I do it. So, um I give them the win before they do it. Um just to take into account the worst possible scenario, I guess. So if the case is they play one match and they win, they make up that match and they're on 36 games played and they're on 77 points and Arsenal are on 79. I do think it'll go down to the last day because it's only a 2 point difference. So if Arsenal end up losing on the last day and City end up winning, I mean they end up basically stealing the league from Arsenal. So um another Aguero moment. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily gonna be an Aguero moment like that. But it could go down to the last day. I think it's been looking like it's gonna go down to the last day anyway. I mean, from the time that they beat them, it was pretty much always going down to the last day. I want it to go down to the last day. At least it keeps it exciting. It's very boring when the league is already done, pretty much everywhere. We've had a couple of seasons of that where, like, the relegation teams were all set in stone. The title was already decided and pretty much everything else was already locked up. And it's like the last game of the season. It's like, all right, nobody really cares now because there's not really an impact. Everything is pretty much done. So, I actually think, I like it. Obviously, I don't know. I'm not really in this, half of our fan base wants Arsenal to lose. The other half of our fan base don't want City to win. I mean, from a Manchester United standpoint, like I've been saying for years, if we're not winning the league and it's not like like a Villa or a Bournemouth or a Brighton or like a Leicester or some team like that, like if we're not winning the league, it's shit. You know what I mean? Like, so, you know, I got some friends that they can't stand Arsenal. They're like, I don't want to see Arsenal win the league. I'd rather have City win. And I'm just like, I can't even pick because either way you cut it, it's still shit. Like, I don't, honestly, I don't want Arsenal to win it and I don't want City to win it. So I don't really have a choice, do I? One of them's got to win it at this point. But I don't want either one of them to win it. So I can't even sit here and pick which one I'd rather have them win it because whichever one wins it, it's still shit either way. Like, I have my reasons for not wanting City to win it because it's fucking City. All right. I don't want them to win it. But then I have my reasons for Arsenal. So there's no real difference. It's shit either way you cut it. So, but I didn't, I let people be people in our fan base. And some of them just, they can't stand Arsenal, whatever it is. And so they don't want Arsenal to win it. And I'm just like, for me, whoever wins this thing, it's shit either way. So like I can't even get fully involved into this. Like, oh, I want City to win it, so Arsenal bottle it, so I could laugh at Arsenal. I'm like, dude, but either way, it sucks for us. So, I mean, at this point, maybe because Arsenal are in the Champions League final, and you don't want them to do a double, so maybe you say, well, we want Arsenal to lose. But I've been saying number one, I've been saying that PSG are winning the Champions League. I've been saying it for like 3 months now, that they're gonna win the Champions League again. They're in the final, and I've been saying it for like a month, and I've been telling my Arsenal friends because they're all hyped because they're like, "Oh, we're going to the Champions League final, whatever." They've been saying like that they have a chance to go win it, and I keep telling them, "You're not winning the Champions League because you can get all the way to the final, but you're gonna meet PSG, and you're gonna have to beat PSG, and you ain't beating PSG, bro." Because I've watched them play. They're brilliantly coached. They have a brilliant group of players. They are, and to me, they are the best team in the world right now. There's nobody better than them, and I don't think Arsenal's team is that special. They've grinded out a lot of results, and I think they're not going to be able to handle PSG. So I don't see them winning the Champions League. So, it's not a problem for me, really. It could be like when United thought they had won it, and Aguero scored for City to win the league. But City have a better manager. But what United could have if they have a top manager. Yeah, but the reason that happened though was because of Joey Barton. Joey Barton did that because QPR had Manchester City on lock. Manchester City had absolutely they had no chance because they were struggling the whole match, and they QPR had them on lockdown. Joey Barton was the reason why we lost the league and they won it. Yeah, okay, Aguero had to score the goal, but they didn't stand the chance until Joey Barton got the red card. So he threw that away. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think he did it on purpose because I'm pretty sure that guy is super anti-United. He's also a dickhead, but pretty sure he hates us, and I'm pretty sure he knew what he was doing because he got a red card for absolutely no reason. There was no reason to get a red card. I remember it clear as day because I was watching the match, and I remember it like it was yesterday. And he literally just got a red card, basically to get a red card because he was like, "Fuck this." He's like, "I don't want United to win." And at that time, it was like, listen, QPR were surprised everybody because they were doing a really good job at their level compared to City's level at that time. But you put them a man down, they don't stand it. They weren't going to stand the chance. So Tottenham should beat Chelsea. Well, listen, I don't know, man. I mean, they could. I mean, listen, Tottenham have been in a better recent form, than Chelsea have, and I don't even know who I don't even know who the hell, I don't even know who the hell the guy is in charge of Chelsea. You know what I mean? I don't even know who he is. Like, at least I know who Zirkzee is. So, I would say right now, just based off of like the last 5 games, I mean, Tottenham are in a better shape than Chelsea. So, I don't know, but then again, it's a derby. So, you know, anything can sort of happen in a derby. So, um, what else do we have left to talk about? I do have to start getting ready though, because I got things to do. So, Paul Merson, you're just an idiot. Paul Merson has already made a prediction saying that Liverpool will finish above United next season. Yeah, I'm just gonna bookmark that one for you. He said Liverpool will finish above United next season, and that's without knowing what happens this summer. I'm gonna bookmark that one for you. You delusional man. Just totally speaking out of his ass, bro. Those are the people that I really can't stand. Can't stand. Like, listen, I don't care if you have like a genuine opinion and you know whatever, but bro, just pulling stuff out of your ass, talking shit, and just saying things. I'm not ageist, but bro, like this guy is old. Get him off the TV, bro. And then you wonder why like nobody watches your shows anymore, and and nobody wants to hear it because nobody wants to hear this stupid stuff. It's the dumbest shit ever. Dumbest shit ever. Like what kind of you're supposed to be a pundit? You're supposed to be like an analyst. You, and you're just like, yeah, Liverpool gonna finish above United, and without knowing what happens this summer, and he's already predicting, oh, Isaac will be fit and Wirtz will have a year in the league. How the fuck? How do you know that? How do you know that? How do you know that? You don't know that. You don't know shit. You have no clue. For all you know, Isaac can break his leg again, and Wirtz can get kicked in the head. I'm not saying I wish that to happen to them, but all I'm saying is there is no way that you can just say Isaac's going to be fit and Wirtz is going to have a year in the league. Like, based off of what? That you think it's just going to happen? Okay, good for you. But bold claims. Well, I know he's an Arsenal. The life of Tina Turner. Eric, have you been hearing what our fans been saying? Mateus Fernandes, average player, but yeah, but that's because of the internet, bro. That's because of the internet, bro. Like I'm not here to I don't want to talk crap about people when they're not here. I'm not really talking crap because I'm stating a fact. And if he was here, I'd say it to him anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But like people that are saying, like Lucky, like the people that you're saying, like the fans are saying Mateus Fernandes, average player, like that's people like Axe. That's people like Axe. Like they don't know who Morgan Rogers is. They don't know who Morgan Rogers is, but they know who Lamine Yamal is. So you say Mateus Fernandes, and they're like, "Oh, I don't know that name. He's not a star. He's just an average player. He's an average player." They never watch the guy play. They don't watch like other football. So that's just what that is. So like, I don't even listen to these people. I don't even listen to these people. And here's the thing, like these people are fickle as well, because I know for a fact they can all sit there and say Mateus Fernandes is an average player. We sign him and he plays good. They're going to be saying that he's the best player in the world. So, I mean, they don't really have any knowledge. A lot of these people. They just, again, they're people that talk out of their ass. Now, it's the internet, so some of them do it for money and clicks. It is what it is, but, you know. They don't watch football, Lucky. Liverpool need a team rebuild. They just had a team rebuild. They just spent 400 million this summer and finished underneath us. They just had a team rebuild. Listen, if we but this is the thing, Lucky. Like, if we get Alex Scott and we get Mateus Fernandes, like, I'll be fine with that. I'm happy with that. I like those players. I think they're good players. They're not the stars. They're not the star-studded signings that some people demand. And if we don't get them, because like we've seen before, bro, there's players there that you can get that they don't have to be these fucking 80, 100 million pound signing players that are absolute ballers. And they can come into your team and they can be good players and they can develop into better players and they can become our stars. I mean, I've been I use this guy all season, but for me, like Sonny Lemons is like the pinnacle of like it's a guy that some people knew about, but nobody was watching the Belgium league and nobody was really watching him play. They heard about him. I never watched him play, but we signed him for like basically nothing. And he's better than Onana, Binder, and Heaton combined. And we signed him for nothing. So there's no reason why you can't sign a player like Alex Scott or Mateus Fernandez for like 40 million, which is a good price. And they can't come to us and be good players because they're not, I don't know, Tonali or whatever. Or they're not, Tchouaméni or some shit. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say all our fans, right? Listen, we have a very large, diverse fan base. So some of our fans, you can tell who these people are. You can tell some of our fans. I think it's a bit sad as well. I heard somebody talk about this one time and I agreed with him. There's some of our fans, they only watch United. And that's it. That's all the football they watch. They only watch us. And I think it's a bit sad. I mean, I get it because, you love and support the club, but like, we are United fans that are fans of football. And then there are just Manchester United fans. And there's a distinct difference between us because if you don't take the time to watch other football, you don't really have much knowledge outside of United. So you're coming with a limited perspective and limited information. And yeah, I think it's very hard. Like, I think it's very hard to have like a good conversation with these people because they just they don't have any knowledge outside of United. And I'm not gonna sugarcoat anything. United has been shit pretty much for like 12 years. So, what have you been watching? Like, what knowledge do you have that we've been shit for 12 years? You don't watch like other styles of football. You don't watch like other leagues, other teams. Like, for me, like I love the Premier League. Like I'm a United fan, always. But I love Premier League football. Like when we're not playing, I watch the other matches because I like to watch football. And like I'll watch the other teams, and I'll look, and I'll be like, oh shit! I'm like, this player on, I don't know his name, because I don't follow all the teams like that all the time. Like like there'll be a team they sign a new guy. I'm like, oh, who's this guy? Never heard of him, But I'm watching him play, and he's playing good. I'm like, oh, I like this guy. He plays good. He's playing good, And I watched him throughout the season. The other leagues I don't watch them a whole lot. I watch them here and there, but the Premier League for sure. Like I watch all the teams. Whatever games are available. Yeah, like he says, I watch all Premier League teams, not just us. No says, what's up, bro? How you doing? United, I want midfield, Carlos Baleba, Tonali, Mateus Fernandez, Ederson, Lewis Hall, Maxi Araujo, Ferreira, Torres. United is better for next season. Please, Ineos, make plan. Well, I could tell you right now that that's not happening. You gave us 4 midfielders, Temesgen. We're not signing 4. And there's no way we sign Baleba, Tonali, and Ederson. Because those are like basically 3 players for the same position. So revise it a little bit. Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. I mean, listen, like you can tell when you talk to people, bro. You can tell if they watch other teams or not. You can tell by the way they act and the way they say things. But online is, I don't know. Anybody else have this feeling? Like, I feel like a couple years ago, like the internet was more fun. Like, yeah, there was like, trolling and stuff like that. That's always existed. But I felt like there was a lot more. It was more real. There was still an element of realism to it. Like, now I just feel like everything is fake. Like, I'm gonna be quite honest. I don't know. Maybe it's like, maybe I'm just getting older, and I'm not like a younger kid anymore, and I'm just getting older. So maybe I'm just like, all right, this is like all bullshit or whatever. But lately, I've just been like, everything, like, I don't even have the urge to go on the internet really anymore, because I just like, I see a post and I'm just like, yeah, it's probably fake. And that's fake, and that's not genuine, and that's, AI wrote that statement, and AI wrote that tweet, and AI wrote that post. Like, I just feel like the internet is like 100% fake now. Like, there's nothing actually genuine on it anymore. So I can't even, like 5-6 years ago, I was like deep into football Twitter. I was on that thing every day, writing, commenting, having conversations with people that I don't even know if they were real people or not, but I assumed so. People from all over different parts of the world, discussing transfers and talking about players and having back and forths with people. I can't even be bothered to do that now. I go online, I see a post, and I see somebody post something like, something about Tchouaméni, and I click on the thing and I look at the replies, and the replies are it's all fake. Half of them are people getting AI to write a response for them, so they're not even thinking of their own response. They're asking the AI to give them a response for likes, which they don't even get. And it's like, it's dead. It's like, it's so dead. Like, I just, like, I don't know. I don't know. Chilling, driving, 100 degrees here. 100 degrees. What the hell? It's 61 by me, and it's mostly cloudy. 100 degrees. So, yeah, I don't know. It is what it is. I mean, at least I have our little community here. This is like all the fun that I have now. Um, and good stuff. But yeah, I don't know. The internet's just like, it's just I have another word that I can't really say, but it's fake. It's fake. It's fake and something else. So, I mean, that's just how I feel about this stuff now. Um what I will say is, though, and I've been saying this for a while, but I seen somebody just bring it up here. And they're asking, is Carrick the guy before the guy? And I think they held the poll, and they said 55% on Carrick. Um, and I will say again, I do think, and I've been saying this, and this is kind of, I mean, I've been saying it in a different way, but I do believe that, like, Carrick is basically the guy before the guy. I think the best there's two good scenarios that can happen with Michael Carrick. One, he's the guy before the guy, which means that he stabilizes us to a certain point, that we are consistent enough, that I've been talking about for shows now. Like, we need to finish in the top 4 consistently for the next 2 to 3 seasons straight, stay in the Champions League for the next 2 to 3 seasons straight, perform as well as we possibly can in the Champions League competition itself for the next 2 to 3 seasons straight. Do it in the league, do it in the FA Cup, do it in the Carabao Cup. So he can either be that guy, and ultimately, he can't really get us over the line, the big line, right? But he can do that, and in that way, he would be the guy before the guy. But in that time, he does also have the opportunity to also be like, no, I am actually the guy. Because while he's in that process, he can go on to be the guy if he ends up being able to get over the line within that process. So I think with Carrick there's two like good scenarios that could come out of him being the manager and us going forward with him being the permanent manager. He can either be the guy before the guy, which I think is not a bad thing for Michael Carrick, especially with his level of experience and how long he's been coaching for and stuff like that. And considering, how sort of it's gone over the past couple years, with like Ten Hag's second season, his third season, him being sacked, Ruben coming in, Ruben's sort of first season, and then this season, and how all that went. The Carrick coming in, if he's able to sort of be the guy before the guy, I think I think he could walk away, ultimately at some point with his head held high. He's done a very good job. And then we'll hopefully in the position that we go get the guy after him that takes us to the promised land. Or he can become the guy in that process, a bit similar to Arteta. Obviously, Carrick won't get 6 years, and I don't think we need 6 years, and it shouldn't take 6 years anyway. But it could be similar in that aspect, because I mean Arteta he's about to win the Prem. He's in the Champions League final, so they're still in a spot where they could win nothing, they could win 2, or they can win 1 out of 2. So he's basically as close as he possibly can get at this point. Or the third option, really, is that, he's not the guy. He's not even the guy before the guy. And, it just sort of all implodes and falls apart, and he gets sacked rather quickly at some point. And we basically start over again with somebody else. I think there's like sort of two potentially positive things that can come out of going forward with Carrick. And then there's the one negative thing. That's SoCal. I prefer this community. It feels like a group of friends and acquaintances. Yeah, that's what we want, bro. That's what we want. That's why we made it. So, that's good. I see I see you guys chatting in the Discord, I know I don't get like too involved in there. Because you guys chat at times that just like I literally can't get into conversations because there's things going on and I can't be on my phone like that. But I do get all the notifications. So like I do see you guys like chatting. But I enjoy that anyway, because I'm like, they're all like friends now. They're having like conversations. I'm not even there. And I was like, they don't even need me. You know what I mean? They don't even need me. They all met because I made a channel and we all support United and we met in this one space. But I was like, now they're all chatting with each other. And I was like, they don't even need me. Which is what I like. So, Carrick is irrelevant. Trying to get messages across the ones that awake. My focus is players are listening to different institutions doing basic switches. To me, Michael Carrick has basically picked up where we left off in Ten Hag Season 1. We knew we could do this already by playing this way, in my opinion. Yeah, I guess, maybe, to a certain point, to a certain degree. I do think I do think that with Eric Ten Hag Season 1, though, it was like, one, we didn't have this hierarchy that we have now, and two, like, he made a lot of changes, didn't he? And he had a lot of power, so, I don't know. And I will say, maybe to Wilcox's credit and Ineos's credit, they were trying to do this like mass overhaul, like completely new direction kind of change thing. and it was a really big thing to do. And maybe they sort of were looking at this over the period that Ruben was here, and they were like, listen, this is like, this was sort of maybe just a bad idea. It was a bad plan. Like, it's a lot of change. It's too big of a change. It's going to cost a lot of money for it to come out into the way that we need it to, when we're in a position that we're not really in such a strong position to really be making such a significant change like this. And so maybe they just were like, let's sort of forget this major change. Let's forget transforming this team into something totally, you know what I mean? Instead of playing a 4-2-3-1 and maybe like counterattack, and they wanted to play like possession 4-3-3, or this modern 3-5-2 or whatever it is, and they wanted to transform this team to like something like, the total opposite of us. Maybe they were just like, listen, this is like, we need smaller steps. This is like we're trying to go from the bottom of Everest to the top by jumping, and it's probably going to kill us if we do it. And maybe that's what's happened. And maybe they're like, listen, a lot of the team is still better suited to counterattacking. It's still better suited to a 4-2-3-1. We can just improve on this aspect and build the team stronger from there. It'll cost us less money. It should take less time. We're more suited to it already. And we just go from here. And then maybe, at some point later on, we can start changing things over slowly. Maybe that's what's happened. Because it's a bit similar like that. Like, obviously, like, we've been playing the 4-2-3-1 for a while. It is one of the most used formations. It's also one of the most balanced formations. And, they pretty much threw that whole experimental project thing out the window with Ruben Amorim. And they were trying to do it when he was here. So, Carrick's come in. He's put the formation back to that. We're pretty much playing counterattack. We've never really been a great possession team. We need players that have the ability to make us a great possession team. Until we get those, we can't really play like that. But it does make a bit of sense. Look, if you're looking to go somewhere decently quick, if the team is predominantly better in a 4-2-3-1, and we're predominantly better, with the counterattacking aspect, we can improve on that a lot quicker than if we're gonna, reset the whole team and do a massive clear out and get 12 players out and 12 players in, which we're not even really in a position to do so because of our financial aspect. If we were to win a couple things like the Premier League, and we're able to stay on top consecutively for 5-6 years, then we'll be in a position where we can rearrange whatever we want. We'll have more money, we'll have more freedom, we'll have more pull, we'll be more attractive. We could, we'll have more wiggle room to start doing sort of crazy projects. But yeah, I don't know. You can't be on your phone all the time because you're in the mafia. Yeah, they're always listening to me. Either way, it's down to spending. Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of it has to do with spending, right? But again, I think there's always a difference. Like, some people will say, like, oh, they don't want to spend money because they want to keep it in their pocket. I'm like, well, but they're not really keeping anything in their pocket, are they? Like, like, I don't know. Like, for me, like, are they still taking dividends? Like, there's like, I don't know. Like, people talk about it in a very basic way, and I don't necessarily blame them for talking about it in a basic way, but I stand to argue that whatever they're actually doing is definitely not in a basic way. I just, for me, I see them like inflating the club value. I don't see the money going, like, this concept that, oh, you know, they want to do, they only want to spend 200 million and not 300 million because they want to pocket the other 100 million, they want to put it in their bank account. I'm like, okay, but where is the actual proof of that though? Where is the actual proof of them where is the proof of us having 300 million and we only spent 200 million? And then they literally took the other 100 million and they took it out of the club and put it in their bank account. Like, there is no actual proof of that. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't actually work like that. So that's why when people start coming up with these like narratives that like they're like, oh, but they want to pocket the money, they want to steal the money. I'm like, well, they're stealing the money a different way. They're not stealing the money in the way you're saying it. And I'm like, we are in a position because of them that we cannot spend or be as reckless with spending as some people would like us to be. On top of that, people have complained that we were reckless with spending, and then we try to spend better, and then they complain that we now don't spend money. So it's, again, it's one of these conversations that it's like, I said earlier in the show, people want United to do good. People want United to win the Premier League. People want United to win the Champions League. But they want Ineos to fail. And they want the Glazers to fail. And they hate Ineos and they hate the Glazers. And I'm like, but it's a whole contradiction in itself because you're not going to get both. But they tote both lines at the same time. They demand Premier League greatness and they demand United to win the Premier League. But they hate Ineos and they want Ineos to fail. And it's like, well, you can't hate Ineos and want them to fail and ask for Manchester United to win the league. Because if Ineos fail like you want them to, that means that our club is on the floor. So we can't win the Premier League if we're on the floor. You're not going to get both. You can't get both. It doesn't work. And the same thing goes with this stuff. Like, you can't be mad at the club and say, oh, they spent ridiculous, reckless amount of money on players, and we overspent and we overpaid players, and then we're starting to spend the money smarter, which means that we're not blowing money like we were blowing money before. So we're spending less, and now people are complaining, oh, but now they're pocketing the money. They want to be cheap. They don't want to spend the money. It's like, bro, but you can't have it both ways. We're either gonna blow money or we're not, or we're gonna spend better, but we're gonna spend less. I don't really understand the back and forth between this. People do want 3 midfielders, a right winger, and a centre back. We got 20 million extra budget. I mean, well, listen, again, we've sort of talked about this before. Like, if you analyze the squad as a whole, again, and I don't stand against these people. I do agree with them. A lot of people, most of our fan base, will look at that squad and say, well, we would like a backup striker. We'd like a winger. We'd like a left back, a right back, maybe a center back, a second goalkeeper, and about 3 midfielders. That's like 10 players. We actually need that. Like, in totality, we actually need that. We need that to essentially, people are saying that we need that so that we can be the strongest team possible and actually go and win a Premier League. We need that. We can't get that in one season. It's not going to happen. But that's not to say that these people are wrong. Like, we do need to fill these positions. We do need players in these positions. We do need to acquire these players. The thing is, we can't do it in one summer, and it's not going to happen in one summer. There's just no possible way, So they're not wrong when they say these things. I agree. Like, like we need 3 central midfielders. We could use a left winger, depending, I guess, on what happens with Dorgu. But I would, in my heart right now, I prefer to just go get an actual winger that plays winger. I mean, I don't know. This experiment with Dorgu can go horribly wrong. We could use a better left back. We could use a better right back. We could probably end up using a center back at some point. I don't know how that's gonna go with De Ligt and Martinez, and even Harry Maguire. Um, we do need a backup goalkeeper because Binder is just a waste of space and there's no future in him. And whether you put Vitek there or you go and get some other guy, whatever it is, go get him. We do need a backup striker because I don't rate Zirkzee, and one striker is never enough. And we've used Mbeumo as sort of a false nine or whatever. And I guess sometimes that worked, but sometimes it didn't work. I mean, it went well for Carrick's first couple games, but I would like, basically another out and out striker that actually that's their position, but just with a little bit different qualities to Sesko. Maybe somebody a bit smaller, somebody that likes to break the lines, or something. So, not my take on it. Our club reflects the financial transaction that occurred when the Glazers became majority owners. It was like a teenager who got a Hellcat he couldn't afford, but doesn't pay for. What? Again, like it's I don't know. It's just people getting carried away. Um, I think some people they just it's an emotional thing. They get very heavily carried away by it, so they get very emotional about it. And they get very angry, and they just start saying things that don't really make sense. Um, because the arguments don't make sense. Like you can't ask the club to spend better, and then they're trying to do so, and now you turn around and you accuse them of pocketing the money. So, and we do that with a couple things in the fan base. That's a couple things. It's not even just the Glazers or whatever, or the ownership, or just the money. So, and I don't give any. I'm not making any excuses for these people, but there is a reality of whether you like it or not, whether you think it should be a thing or it shouldn't. It is a thing. Like if our club, if it was run poorly to the point where like the money is the issue, then like we have to abide by those guidelines to make sure that we don't break any rules. Because the last thing anybody would want is United to get deducted like 6 points in a season because we broke PSR. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. So if we only have a certain amount of money that we can spend because of what we've done over the past 10 years, then there's only a certain amount of money that we can spend. Like, what do you want? What do you want to do? Our fans got in in their heads Manchester United have complete squad. Well, some people do. I think there's plenty of people out there lucky that are like me and you guys, and I've seen people on the other big channels pretty much putting out a warning saying, listen, we do not be fooled. Do not think that because we've finished third this season and we've secured Champions League and everybody's all excited and there's all this hype, do not get fooled and start thinking that we are 110% back. We've done part 1 out of part 4 is what I would say. So there's many people in our fan base that are basically giving out, sounding the alarm. Basically like, hey, come back down to earth a little bit, all right? Don't get carried away. But obviously, in every aspect, there's people that just get absolutely carried away, or they're just completely like delusional, So, um, but yeah, I mean, there's nothing. Listen, all you could do for that is we do what we do. We present our opinions and facts as we see them, and if we end up being right, that those people hopefully they wake up, but they have to wake up on their own accord. And sometimes they have to go through the process of being delusional, being completely wrong, basically having their heart broken or their reality shattered a bit, and then sort of remembering, yeah, you know what, I was thinking this, and I remember that guy was saying, like, yo, we're not there yet. And I remember that guy, he was hammering that point. He was saying for time we weren't at that level, and I didn't believe him, and I didn't think that way, but he was right. So, um Simon, what's up, Simon? Just back from the pub. Nice. Just switched on. What 5 signings are we after? Sorry, I'm late. Well, Sam Luckhurst basically came out with an update saying that United are looking to sign 3 central midfielders, a striker, and a left back. So, and he said that we're looking to do a minimum of 5 signings. He also added that out of those, there could potentially be a backup keeper signed as well. I don't know if we're going to do those exact positions, but he's mentioned 3 midfielders today, and I think about 2 to 3 other journalists, Laurie Whitwell, um, Andy Mitten maybe, and somebody else. They've all basically been reporting that United are looking to go and get 3 midfielders now. So this sort of lines up with what we were talking about for the past few weeks. I mean, we were saying that 5 would be nice, and we would like 5, and it's the same as what I said last season. I said I think 5 would be great, and 5 was sort of my minimum. We ended up getting 4, and the 4 went well, but I would have liked 5. I think we all could agree that we could have used the 5th in a midfielder this season. That would have been 5, and I think we would have been perfect. Um, and we're here now, and I've sort of been going back and forth a little bit, kind of feeling like, yeah, we probably will only get 4, we won't get 5. But I kind of sit here again and I say, listen, 4 will be okay, but I think 5 will be good. And if you could do 5, if we can figure out how to do 5, if we could get 5 done, I think, you can't really ask for much more, especially in our situation and our position, um, that we've been in over the past couple years, to come in and do 5 signings. What positions exactly? I mean, he said a left back. I think that one is still open for determination, because I think it really depends on what United decide to do with Dorgu. Because there's been mentions of a left winger, but the way I see the squad right now is we only need 1 signing for a winger, right? But if you take Dorgu and you turn him into a winger, then we don't actually need a signing for the wing, because we have enough depth technically there. But then what happens is, then obviously we need a left back, because we've taken one of our left backs and turned him into a winger. So instead of having a hole in a wing spot, we have a hole in the left back. So then we got to go and get another left back. So I think really, I think he's doing a bit of guessing right now in terms of specifically what positions are going to be filled, because I mean, he's saying 3 center mids, a left back, and a backup striker. I mean, for all we know, we could do like 2 center mids, a left wing, a right back, a center back, and and a backup goalkeeper or something. So, um, I know it's Samuel Luckers, but like it's just I've been sort of analyzing it like that, and I do think it makes sense. And he reported about it, so I just thought it was like a good talking point to bring in to the show and have a discussion about it, you know? Um yes, Laurie Whitwell was one of them. Um so yeah, I mean it's good to see that they finally caught up because I mean I've been saying this and some of you have been saying this that like for weeks now we've been saying, well, we need three midfielders. So they they were talking about two for time. Now today seemed like a bunch of them came out, Laurie Whitwell included, and you know, they're all saying three midfielders. One or two of them is still putting in if Ugarte is sold, but it's like, yeah, but that shouldn't really be like coming from our club, the people in charge, it shouldn't be if Ugarte is sold. It is Ugarte is going to be sold, so we're going to go and get three midfielders. It shouldn't be if Ugarte is sold. Ugarte needs to be sold. There's no if about it. It's like we're running the club and I'm looking at the squad and I'm building for next season and I'm saying this guy needs to be sold. There's no if. There's no if he gets sold. It's we're selling him. Get it fucking done. Whatever it is. Put the people on it. Make it happen. Cuz it's got to happen cuz we got to go and get somebody else and we got to move and we got to go and buy other players. So there's maybe it's just a journalist wording, but for me like the mindset is there's no if he gets sold. It's we're sitting down at the table and saying Jason or whoever it is, opinions on this guy. All right, nobody really likes him. Good. Okay, so we're selling him. That's it. We're selling him. Start making plans. Put all the shit together. We need to sign three midfielders. Go get it done. Go. And get out of my office, and come back when you got it all ready to go. All right? Like that's what it is. Even the same thing for Zirkzee. Like I sit there and I say, well, we could probably do better. Doesn't need to stay here. And if I feel like we could do better than him, then we're selling him. And we're gonna go and get somebody else. Like these players shouldn't be staying here for any reason. There's no, we cannot be, we have to be proactive in that sense. We cannot be the club that like we've been in the past where we're like, well, it's gonna be a bit hard to move them on, and we could just keep them for the depth. Like listen, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to sign three midfielders. Can't we just sign two and we'll keep Ugarte, as the fourth backup, and then maybe we'll sell him next season. It's like no. That's not what you do. That's not what you do. You can't do that. Can't do that because we're not being to the best of our ability. We're not being proactive. We are essentially being lazy, or just not good enough. So, how many are we going to sell, or are we loaning players out too? I mean, we're selling Rasmus. I mean, he's pretty much gone already. Marcus is going to get sold one way or another somehow at some place at some time. Zirkzee should be going. Garte should be going. Tyrell Malacia is leaving on a free, so that's not really selling. Casemiro's leaving on a free, so that's about 6 right there. And then out of the rest of the squad, I mean, like Binder should be sold. Onana technically has to be officially sold. So that's about like 7 or 8 players right there. The rest of them, I don't really see anybody else going because the amount that we need to get in and how much we would have to get out, it's just there's no way we could do all of that. But I think the other players that we have anyway, like the rest of the squad, to a certain degree, like they're usable in one way or another. So we have to take like the most highest urgent priorities that aren't really helpful in this moment in time, that we can't really use, that don't really have an impact. We need to get rid of them and then go from there. Um so I mean, he could go to the Italian league. Like, it doesn't really matter where he goes. You know, it's not. I'm not his agent. I don't really care where Ugarte goes. I don't really care where Zirkzee goes. Just I want our club. I want my club, our club. Okay, I want our club to just do what big successful clubs do, where they say, "Yeah, we want better than you. You're not a bad player, but you're not like anything special." And we can probably get somebody that does a better job than you are giving us right now. Thank you for your services. We're going to sell you. And then that's the end of the story. You know, like how I just explained. Like Real Madrid basically hold the cards for Tchouaméni's future. Tchouaméni, I know for a fact. I mean, not for a fact, but I have a pretty good inclination feeling. He'll probably tell you the same. But I mean, it's not. I don't think it's far fetched. Tchouaméni doesn't want to leave Real Madrid. I don't think there's any player that really wants to leave Real Madrid. No matter what problem they have at Real Madrid, they don't want to leave Real Madrid. But I can guarantee you, whatever player it may be, whether it's fucking Mbappe, Tchouaméni, or Courtois, if Florentino Perez calls that player into the office and that player can tell him how much he wants to stay at Real Madrid and he doesn't want to go anywhere else, and Florentino Perez tells him, yeah, but we don't want you here anymore. You're out. We're going to sell you. He's going to leave. So I would like for us to do the same with Ugarte and Zirkzee. Don't just sit there and be like, well, listen, we could maybe sell them, but, you know, we could also just keep them because we need the depth. And, you know, it's a lot of work to do to sell Ugarte and to sell Zirkzee and then go buy 3 midfielders, and then we need to buy a backup striker, but then also we might need a left back or a left winger, and we got to no. Like, these things need to be done. They need to be done. So, you know. All right, guys, but listen, I do have to go. Okay? So, I enjoyed the conversation. It's good to be back. I hope all of you are, you know, in a good place, good spot. Thank you for smashing the like button. If you did that, if you didn't, please make sure you do it on the way out. Yeah, it was good to be back after a couple of days off. Again, I apologize for not doing the Red Devil recap. I was ill. I was sick. I couldn't even watch the match. I was laying down in bed, had it on the phone, watched about 20 minutes, passed out, woke up in the 90th minute, and I couldn't even get out of bed. So there was no way for me to set up a show and do a hour and a half show, especially in a match that I didn't even watch. I mean, that would be hard for me to do. Talk about a match and analyze a match that I didn't even watch and review a match. So yeah, apologize for that. I think as far as the rest of the week goes, tomorrow most likely we won't do an 8:15 p.m. UK time show. But we will be back. Wednesday should be the day. So Wednesday and Thursday we'll do a show. Friday, unfortunately, we won't be able to do the Friday show that we usually do and love to do because it's Friday and it's always like good vibes, you know. But Friday I will be at work, so Friday I won't be able to do one. And when is our next match? Because I also am working probably Saturday. So our match is on Sunday, so that's good. So yeah, Friday, Saturday I won't be available. So basically what we're looking at right now is we'll be back Wednesday, we'll do one Thursday, then we won't be live Friday or Saturday, and then Sunday we'll do a Red Devil recap after the match for Forest, and then we go again from there. So yeah. Simon says, great stream as ever. Hope to catch you earlier next time. Have a good day, all. Yeah, thank you, bro. Be good. It was good chatting with you. Nice to see you again. And thank you for the support. And anybody that was new that subscribed, thank you as well. And if you're around Wednesday, 8:15 p.m. UK time, that's when we'll be back live. Wednesday and Thursday. So other than that, enjoy the rest of your Mondays. Okay, everybody have a good Tuesday as well, and we'll speak and see each other really, really soon on Wednesday.